In recent versions of Java, well, I say recently, but what I really mean is just like any version more recent than that last time they updated the curriculum of that Java class that you took in high school. For me, that was only 2 years ago when I was 15. But anyways, in versions of Java after 2014, lambda expressions have been a part of the language. For those who don't know, a lambda expression is basically just an inline or anonymous function. Here's an example in a few languages. Hopefully you've seen this type of statement before. It's generally associated with functional programming, which might explain why Java didn't have it. The real reason is more technical, but that would spoil the video, so we're not doing that. Let's look at some Java code for making a lambda function. This looks pretty identical to the others, with some standard Java verbosity, but when I do this, my editor lets me know that I can use a shorthand. This is referred to as a method reference, which makes sense. You can do the same thing in plenty of languages. Here's JavaScript. Technically, this prints out some extra arguments, but that's irrelevant. If you know how lambdas work, this should make perfect sense. All we're doing when we create a lambda is that we create a function and pass it to the for each. The for each function simply calls whatever function we give it with whatever arguments it has. When we use console.log directly, we're just passing that to the function. But why does Java use a double colon for this? If we're just passing a function, why should we have to reference it differently? What if we just use a dot? Well, let's try. We get an error. Cannot find symbol println. What? Obviously println exists. We can call it easily. This is the fundamental flaw of Java functional programming. Functions are not values, period. In fact, they don't even have name collisions. Look at this. The method and the field have two completely separate values and can be referenced independently of one another. Okay, so if a function isn't a value, what's the method reference doing? It's just syntactic sugar. It's the exact same as the lambda. Okay, so if a function isn't a value, how do you declare a method that takes one in? Let's look at an example. Okay, honestly, just pause to analyze this if you need to. I don't have time to explain how verbose and what all this means. But what we can see is that we do take in a function. Well, a function type. Who knows if it's actually a function or if it's just some wrapper or whatever. We also see that we don't call the function directly. There's some apply method that we call instead. Let's try and use it. This seems pretty simple. Double the number, then print it out. Let's give it a shot. We get an error. Missing return value. Well, why should we have to return? Our for each didn't need to return, so what's up with this? Well, turns out in Java, a function is something very specific. In order to be a function, you need to take in exactly one value and return exactly one value. So, what if we don't want to return? Well, turns out that's called a consumer. Okay, I guess. Sure, we can make that change. Great, let's try it. Cannot find symbol? Are you kidding me? Yeah. Turns out the method is called except for consumers. For some reason. So, what have we learned? Turns out, different combinations of inputs and outputs have different names and are called differently. Let's look at all the permutations. Alright, I guess this works. And there's more for other permutations, right? Right? Well, no. No, there are not anymore. How do you use a consumer with 3 inputs then? You make it yourself. Let's find out how. A good starting place might be to see how a consumer with 2 inputs, or a by consumer, is defined. It's an interface? Yep. And making one is just as easy as it looks. And we can use it. And then we can call it. Okay. This makes sense, except for one big glaring thing. how on earth does this satisfy this? The answer is simple. Lambdas in Java are just a shorthand. One big, stupid shorthand. Java has something called anonymous classes. The idea is simple. Take a class, make a subclass, and instantiate it. This is usually used for abstract classes. What this means is that this is the same as this. Is this a good thing? Who knows? But maybe you're seeing where this is going. Turns out, you can make anonymous interfaces too. Hopefully it's clicked by now, but in case it hasn't, I'll show one more example. It's actually shorthand for this. I wish we could celebrate having finally figured out what's going on here, but really I'm just disappointed. Except actually I'm not. I don't think this is bad. Sure, it's a scam, but it makes people happy. Plus, it solves a uniquely Java problem in a uniquely Java way. It just so happens that the so-called Java way is verbose, confusing, and overcomplicated. If you like this video, I'd greatly appreciate a subscription. This is my first video on this channel, and arguably my first real video ever, since before this all I made was Minecraft videos. Anyways, I hope I'll see you next time. If assuming there is a next time.